stuff. How'd you get in touch with his neighbor, and how did that play out?
So actually, I knew I wanted to get my hands on the Dahmer story once the Netflix series came out.
Mm-hmm.
Just being in Milwaukee and while watching it, and just as large as the whole Dahmer situation is, and I actually live very close to where all of that stuff is going down.
Oh,
I live
that's
in
fun.
that neighborhood. Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah.
I live like a couple blocks away from it, and being in Milwaukee, living in Milwaukee, watching that on Netflix and then watching the documentary later, it just made it feel so real. You know, Milwaukee actually had the lowest viewership out of any city in the country that watched that Netflix series.
Really?
Because it's real to them.
Yeah.
Like, the media has turned Jeffrey Dahmer into Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, he's like a celebrity almost.
Like, he's a fictional figure almost.
People were, I think, there was a big controversy.
There's
people dressing
fan
up.
bases.
Yeah.
People dress as him for Halloween.
Yeah.
Their fan pages on social media. They made him a Freddy Krueger adjacent.
Yeah.
People don't look at Jeff Dahmer, as a human being.
Yeah, that
who
killed
was
people.
living here in Milwaukee on 20th Street that was killing and eating motherfuckers.
Yeah, yeah, that's wild, bro. And they
probably not seasoning them with his white ass.
Yeah, his white ass. No, not with those glasses, bro. You don't know anything about that. But dude, it's like there are people I know. I'm not gonna put nobody on blast. I know women that think he is attractive.
I see that on social media.
That's wild to me. Could you imagine? The
right now? The
right
psychology of a woman is always. I don't know if any scientist in the world will ever be able to put the T on that.
There's no way for you to capture the essence.
You can't. There ladies out here that are attracted to killers, bro.
Serial killers. And
like,
cannibals.
he was out here killing motherfuckers and eating ass, literally eating ass, and you're attracted to him.
He did, yeah. The highest level of ass.
He had
eatery.
booty cheeks in his mouth, and you're attracted to him.
Yeah,
Come on now.
What do you think the macros is on some booty cheeks for real?
Macros?
Yeah. What do you think the macros? You think he was tracking his diet? You think he had any dietary tracking? You think he was trying to bulk up?
You think booty?
Slim down?
Are you asking if booty cheeks
calories?
has any calories?
Yeah. What is it? What is the calories? I'm trying to figure out like what's the protein, carbohydrates, the complex. What are we talking?
I feel like it depends on the person.
Yeah. He was.
Let me ask this question.
Right?
What would be a healthier person to eat? Would it be like a fat person or a muscular person? I feel like a fat person has a lot of flesh.
They would probably.
They'll fill you up and like be for survival.
I think you'd want like dad bod, because that's like skinny fat, right? Where it's like there's still some lean meat because that's where the protein is, or it's not terrible, but you have a little bit of fat for some flavor.
Why do we sound like cannibalists right now?
I don't know.
We're really going into that conversation.
It's Milwaukee, bro. It's rubbing off on us. He's not
Seriously.
far. He's not far from us. So how'd you get in touch with his neighbor? I forget his name off the top of my head.
Vernell Bass.
Bass.
So I was watching the Netflix series and I immediately realized like I wanted to get on that interview. So I wanted to interview somebody who was connected to it. So me being a reporter, I thought, okay, maybe I'll get a journalist. I forgot what his name is. Is Jeff something was the journalist who worked for TMJ4, the NBC affiliate here in Milwaukee at the time in 1991. He broke the news.
Oh, wow.
Like he was the first reporter on the scene. So, and he still lives here in Milwaukee. He like works for the mayor's office now. So I contacted him. I wanted him to get on the show. He said he politely declined.
Yeah.
So then I was in kind of a rut. I didn't know who to contact. There's a guy who I actually work with at PBS who worked with the Milwaukee Sentinel at the time. I didn't want to get him on the show because of conflict of interest. Like we work at the same place and our regular job, so I didn't want to get him on the show. So now I was like at a loss.
Dead end.
And then I watched the documentary again. And I'm like, Vernell Bass. Got on Facebook, looked this dude up on Facebook, DM'd him.
End of story. And you got
End of story.
Yeah. That's sweet, dude.
End of story.
And you did a phenomenal. And again, I haven't gone through the whole thing yet. I plan on watching the rest of it. But you did, from what I saw, you were just conducted a very well done interview.
Thank you.
I'm curious. Again, I haven't gone to the whole thing. What is something after you had some time to let that sit and like digest all the information that was just given to you, that you were like, holy shit, like what was like one thing that was like a big takeaway that after you had some time to sit with it? Because obviously when you're doing an interview, as you're in the moment, you're getting through the things you got to get through. After you had some time to sit with it, what were your thoughts?
Are you talking about like
just the interview with him, like thoughts on the situation, his perspective, anything new he brought to light?
the craziest thing that shocked me?
He was I thought part of your interview, I'm pretty sure there was a portion that I was listening to where I think you actually cracked a joke there where you were talking about like the thing about him handing out sandwiches and how that like wasn't actually a real thing.
Okay, so that was
I thought that was kind of interesting because that's a myth, right? That he was like
the sandwich thing wasn't so. Vernell Bass, did you watch the series?
I didn't watch the series. No.
Okay.
Yours is this is what I've seen is your stuff. So I haven't seen this.
So there was a lady on the show whose name was I'm forgetting what her name was, but she was playing Glenda Cleveland. Glenda Cleveland was her name. So
Okay.
she portrayed the character Glenda Cleveland, who was a real life woman in Milwaukee around the Jeffrey Dahmer situation. Glenda Cleveland was the supposed neighbor in the Netflix series, but in real life, she actually wasn't even living in the building. She lived in a building across like the street.
Oh, okay.
But she was the one who called the police on who was there when the police showed up when Jeffrey Dahmer was taking an Asian kid back into his apartment after he drugged him. So the movie, so Netflix decided, because Glenda Cleveland, this is what Vernal said, because Glenda Cleveland has passed away now, we can just take her, use her as the character, and say she was the neighbor, so we don't have to pay anybody who's still alive, who was for their likeness, who was the actual neighbor.
Yeah.
So that's what Vernell Bass's idea was, that why they didn't make a character out of him and his wife at the time, a woman named Pamela Bass. And Pamela Bass, according to Vernal, they're divorced now. According to Vernal, he believed that Pamela was kind of like dipping in the 15 minutes of fame a little bit too much, with all the media cameras coming around asking questions like, what was it like living next to Jeffrey Dahmer? Because they essentially became celebrities after that. Everybody across America knew them because they were Jeffrey Dahmer's neighbors right across the hall, closest access. So local news was interviewing them, national news, radio shows, so they became known. And what Vernal was saying was that Pamela began to make up stories that weren't true. Like, after a while, after 5 years removed of the Jeffrey Dahmer situation, people aren't going to care about it as much.
Yeah.
But then she's like, oh, there was a time when he made me a sandwich, and this is something nobody's ever heard. So, sandwich, I never heard that before.
Wow,
so
sandwich.
It brings exactly. So that's what Vernon was saying. Like it brings attention back to her. So she would start certain rumors, and the sandwich was one of them. And then that's how that rumor got out there. So you see it in the Netflix series where Jeffrey Dahmer offers his neighbor a sandwich, and that just never happened.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And the lady, the neighbor herself, just wasn't even his neighbor.
Yeah, isn't that kind of crazy
shocking.
how a myth like that could just like spiral and like snowball into something that ends up being, now it's in a movie that's like.
But I think the producers knew that was just a myth. It's a myth that they wanted to run with because it was cheaper for them to run with.
Yeah,
so.
It's entertaining. People are like, wow, that's so neat. Why would he,
I feel like if they made it Vernell Bass, it would have been more entertaining because it would have been man to man. Like, it would have been a man that's like, that was curious about what was in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. A man who has to like protect his, I don't know. Just like the writer in my mind, that would have been more of an interesting dynamic as opposed to a single woman.
I could see it either way. I think
I could see it either way, but I personally felt like it may have been more interesting if they just made it Vernell Bass as the neighbor.
I think it is. I think it's kind of wild that they chose somebody that, or if obviously this is alleged, we don't know if that's exactly why they did it, but I'm sure that played a factor into why they chose the character that they did, is that they were passed away. I think that's kind of wild. But he was, I'm not like super big on the Dahmer lore. Wasn't he into? It was like mostly men, right? It wasn't that his
Dahmer
victims?
was gay. Yeah.
Yeah, they were all men. Were his victims?
He was
believe.
gay.
So it's like, I think maybe that aspect of having it also be a man might have been something to play on, like that. That would have been kind of interesting, especially the time period.
Exactly. In
there
the
wasn't
time
a
period,
lot
and
of
that's what I'm saying. There was
openness
this,
towards that.
it would have been better if they just made it Vernell Bass.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about. I think it's just wild how popular, like we were talking about earlier, that it's gotten.
And then him and Vernell Bass actually, in the interview, I was talking about how they actually had a close relationship.
Oh, they spoke.
Like, as close as neighbors, friendly neighbors get.
Cordial.
You know, cordial neighbors get. Like, they'll invite each other into their apartments every now and then for a beer, ask to borrow cigarettes. Jeffrey Dahmer actually lended Vernell $60 one time to help him buy a gift for his sister because he didn't have money. And so, like, yeah, they were getting that type of close as neighbors go.
Yeah, dude.
Just friendly, supportive neighbors. And, like, if you put that into into the movie and behind closed doors, he's a fucking serial killer.
Yeah.
That's way more interesting than
a
random lady who called the cops once.
Why do you think serial killers in general are so almost fetishized in like media sense? Why are they so sought after?
Because it's an interesting story. It's a story we can never understand. I think that's why we watch content. That's why we watch entertainment. It's something that takes us away and keeps our mind off of our everyday lives. A serial killer, that's something that we can never put our fingers on. You know what I'm saying? That's something that we can never pinpoint, like what makes them so evil. Obviously childhood trauma and all of that, but there are other people who have childhood trauma that aren't serial killers.
Yeah.
So it's the mystery behind them essentially.
You think, the mystery that drives the interest? I could see
Definitely.
that. I have friends that are big into just anything to do with like killer stories and stuff, like serial killer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's popular. It's a popular genre of stuff.
I've noticed is a big thing amongst women.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the podcast. What is it? The murder mystery podcasts are big.
Like, if you look at my comments, it is a lot of ladies in the comments.
Yeah, they were looking for some Dahmer content. You know,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Very interesting.
It's kind of wild. So pivoting from there, then, right? So I think you really showed your journalistic chops on that interview, and that's why I wanted to touch on it a little bit. Thanks for watching that last video, guys. Click right over here to see the episode in its entirety, or click over here to subscribe and check out all the other cool shit we have on the channel. What are you gonna do? What are you going to do? Do it.